Join us for an enlightening experience where you will gain a deeper understanding of the purpose and essence of opening your eyes. This is your chance to enhance self-awareness and personal growth with a shift in perception that provides a fresh outlook on life. Embrace the journey from consciousness to superconsciousness by Barrett Kunyan.
Good evening from Bulgaria. Austria, beg your pardon. We're in Austria, and Brother Rick is in Romania. I think we only have a 1 hour time difference here. Brother, again, thank you for your divine presence. I relish and honor these opportunities, so thank you very, very much. For our viewers out there, not that long ago, Brother Rick, on I think the 18th of December to be exact, he sort of put this incredible movie, promoted this movie, and it's called I Believe, and basically it's about a 9-year-old child performing miracles through the power of prayer. And that is the topic, the title for our beautiful connection today to all our viewers. So I'm really, really excited about this one, brother. Before I sort of like get into a few tantalizing questions, I placed here a follow-up thought-provoking questions. This is not for you to answer, but it's quite interesting for our viewers to look at some of these questions, and it was divinely brought to my notice. First of all, there's 3 particular questions, which is quite thought-provocative, or provoking, shall I say. And the first one is, how does one cultivate deeper sense of faith or trust in the power of prayer? That's the first one. And the second one is, could prayer be considered a form of self-reflection or inner dialogue? And the third one, in what ways can prayer transcend religion and become a universal practice? So here we are with some questions which I proudly put on a piece of paper. There's quite a few, brother, on this topic, but it's the way I've orchestrated it is the first question will be defining prayer. The second question will be the purpose and power. And the third question will be connection to the divine. And the fourth question will be on the topic of scientific perspectives. Question 5 will be forms of prayer, which is quite interesting to look into. Question 6 will be, brother, your personal experience, which we will ask questions on that. Question 7 will be the collective prayer. Question 8 is challenges and doubts that people are having. Question 9 is about modern relevance. And question 10 will be prayer and manifestation. But let's begin, Brother Rick. Thank you again with the first question. And it's to do with defining prayer. So here's the question that has come to my heart to share with Brother Rick. I will repeat this because we're not doing the PowerPoint presentation, so I'm happy to repeat it a few times, brother. But first question, lovely Rick, Brother Rick, is what in your perspective is prayer? And how does it differ across various cultures and spiritual traditions? So, sorry, in that question, there seems to be like a two questions in one. But let me start with the first. What, in your perspective, is prayer, brother?
Thank you. Well, to keep it simple, prayer is connecting to the abstract supernatural force of creation and known as God. So this is the connection. It's the action of connecting into this higher abstract energy in supporting force.
Excellent, excellent. And how does it differ? Yeah, I was going to say, how does it differ across various cultures and spiritual traditions?
Well, really, it doesn't vary because prayer is with the intent. And when you look at the dynamics where prayer begins, where it is initiated from, for the reason most times for someone to go into prayer, let's say a circumstance or a situation has occurred that one feels they need assistance with. And the assistance, what they ask for, is the omnipotent, abstract, supernatural force of God to come in and to assist with it. So, with the structure and dynamics of prayer, if you will, the initiation point of it is one will get in their consciousness or in their heart, because both is connected. They will get a feeling, if you will, of a despair that they must do something. But this is their divine inkling to lead them, yes, to initiate the prayer to connect with the abstract force. So, having said this, across cultures, what you're asking, it's to pray. It is the intent to pray. It does not relatively matter how you do it. It is the intent to pray, and this intent connects you to that force. There is no wrong way to pray. It is the intent that begins it. And it depends, there are the variables that depends on the outcomes of it. Just simply, everyone needs to realize that your prayers are always heard, even if it doesn't look like they're answered, because everyone needs to realize that there is a divine plan, and you have many souls that have their individual contracts, if you will, with Creator and what they experience and what they do here on earth. So sometimes your prayers may not work, but what I will say is that they are heard. The universe does hear them, but sometimes you cannot intervene with another soul's experience.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. That was
Yep.
in terms of defining prayer. And my next question is on the side of purpose and power. So why do you think prayer has been a central practice in human history? And what purpose does it serve for individuals and communities at large?
Well, with prayer, there's different analogies that you can apply in hypothetical situations that will explain it. But again, just to keep it short, it's the humanoid soul's way of connecting with, again, the abstract supernatural forces of all of creation. Could you just read what your question was again, so I can get more on point, please?
Absolutely, brother.
Thank you.
Yes, no worries, of course. So the question was, why do you think prayer has been a central practice in human history?
Thank you.
And what purpose does it serve for individuals and communities?
Well, with it, there would be no direction out of this earthly situation, if you will. There always needs to be a direction. There always needs to be a hope And without a hope, there is no direction. And for example, you would have humanity just remaining in a stagnant, savage state with no evolution forward, because again, prayer is connected to consciousness and to the heart, all inclusive. And the actual dynamics and mechanics of prayer is relatively simple, yet complex, depending upon the perspective of consciousness. And to simply put it, yes, if and let's entertain this. If prayer wasn't valuable and was not beneficial to humanity, it would not even be here.
True. Absolutely.
So this means it does have a benefit. But when you have all the attributes of prayers over the years, by one seeing the miraculous results and also the angelic artifacts that are connected with it as confirmations, there is no doubt that there is something else.
Yes. Thank you, brother. Connection to the divine. Many describe prayer as a way to communicate with a higher or the higher power. How would you explain this connection, and how do individuals know their prayers are being heard? Shall I repeat, brother? So many describe. That's cool. Yeah, I can repeat if you want.
Yeah. Please repeat it.
Yeah,
Now,
I will repeat this one.
thank you.
Okay.
In short,
this is to do with.
Sentence.
Yeah, sure. It's to do with connection to the divine. Many describe prayer as a way to communicate with a higher power or the higher power. How would you explain this connection, and how do individuals know their prayers are being heard?
Well, again, prayers are always heard. And how I will explain this connection, if you will, it's at times it's both of what you ask, that one is connecting with a whole higher soul aspect of themselves, but also connecting with the omnipotent supernatural entity known as prime creator, if you will. With this, what occurred, it was like a two-part question. And the way I love to operate when I answer questions is like one at a time, so I can give more detail on the one question at a time. So with that, having said it, did that answer what you asked?
Well, look, my take on that question was like, you're praying to maybe different levels of a source. Is there one source that we're praying to, or are there different entry levels of, like, some people might be praying to the Palladians, for example, or the Acturians, or the totality of one source energy.
Well, let's say you're praying to the energetic layers and levels of creation. But again, the most powerful to pray to is the prime creator. So let's say, for it makes more sense to pray to the head honcho than one of his or her aids, if you will. You always want the best. Everyone strives for that. So always go for the most highest and best with that assistance. And, this is why everyone prays to God, Allah, Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha, that are
Yeah.
connected straight to God. So it's more
Yeah.
beneficial, yes, to do that. And, you know, when ones pray, yes, they do pray to many things. But again, what I say, don't complicate it. Have one prime source of all creation, which is God, or if they wish to call it source, pray to that, to the universe, even, you know, the universe is God. Instead of trying to control and manipulate creation by trying to advance one aspect, you're more productive and you have more confirmational confirmations and results, the more fine-tuned and oriented you keep your prayer to what type of assistance you're asking for.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. On the scientific perspectives, are there any scientific studies or findings that validate the impact of prayer on mental, emotional, or physical well-being that you're aware of, that sometimes people need cross-referencing?
The answer to that is yes. You know, we love when at least two examples of this is one example in India where there was a mass meditation and praying. The effects of that was documented into the energetic field of Gaia herself, so scientifically documented. That is one example. And also the indigenous cultures worldwide, the ones that are still connected to God, Great Spirit, and what have you, they also practice it and know it, but it's also been scientifically studied as well. You know, I love what Greg Braden had spoke about several years ago when a North American indigenous was showing him how to make it rain and teaching him how to have a higher prayer with more instantaneous effects. So the reason I bring this up, many has seen it, many knows that it's true, and that is the witness and the testimony and the confirmation that it is very real, that it's not a phenomenon or paranormal. It is a divine normal that is scientifically also proven to be accessed here. And with the scientific field, what we see and what I love to call the metaphysical divine community, the knowing is embodied, and we share the information. But what you always find in the past is that science has to constantly keep up, but they do, and they do eventually prove everything that the divine community says at some point. And I believe one of the most recent things was a scientific paper put out not so long ago that they know that the consciousness does not die. So they were satisfied to know that it's not the end here. And the scientists reached out with this paper to say that consciousness does not die. And so this is some more scientific fact. But also, if one wanted to go into the lengthy research worldwide, at the end of all that research, they would come out to know that prayer is true. So to save everyone a lot of time, pray and pray out loud when you do, and it works. But it's important. One of the most important ingredients as well is, as you mentioned first, Barrett, the faith, the belief in it. The more you believe in it, the more you trust in it, then the stronger it is, and the more instantaneous and visual results you will get.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother, for that. If I may bring your attention to forms of prayer. Prayer can be silent, vocal, meditative, or ritualistic. What do you think influences the form, from someone's perspective of how it shapes and takes form in terms of? So I'm saying basically prayer can be silent, of course, vocal, meditative, or ritualistic. What do you think influences the form?
Well, there are different forms, if you will, and contributing factors. But what I wish to say, instead of entertaining all of the other forms and practices, I love to just state that you're in your prayer, you're sincere in the moment, you have the intent in your heart already established what you wish to pray for. Everyone should know that reality resides on frequency and harmonics, which means that you're vocalizing your prayer outward is having more of a compound effect in your world, but also it's heard um, as well much easier by the universe. So what I say, instead of complicating things, and each one has their own unique way. Some may go into meditation to pray, but what I wish to say as an example, I don't meditate because I'm in a meditation form all day and with my connection and communion with Prime Creator. And what I was told, by Prime Creator in the very beginning, he said, Rick, always speak your prayer out loud to I. And he explained the importance of that because we do have the co-creator attributes that does affect reality, because we, the divine souls, are co-creators that instruct reality to behave to us. Hence, you create your reality. However, what is occurring, it's marginal until we have enough, if you will, unified to create the new reality and have it seeded with all the good things we want. But you have another question.
Thank you, brother Rick. This one's a personal one, if I may be daring. Personal experience, if I may. Thank you, brother. Can you share a personal or profound experience where prayer played a transformative role in your life or someone else's? If you're able to share something.
Well, I just put out the video the other day, and I don't say this in a human egotistical way.
Should I repeat?
Yeah, go ahead if you wish.
No, I was going to say, should I repeat the question, or are you okay? We just got cut out.
Yes. Yeah, repeat the question.
Yeah.
I was just going to give an
Okay,
example. Yeah.
Okay. I was just going to say, if you can share a personal or profound experience where prayer played a transformative role in your life or someone else's. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, before I answer, I like to say, when we are divine, when we have embodied our divinity, everything we actually say is a prayer because it's affecting reality, if you will. So for on the personal level, my first open prayers would have been just after just after I come to know who I was. And I just put out the video, the live, and it's a video just the other day. Father instructed me to share that again. But what I will say with it is that I was here on earth not knowing who I was myself until I was about 47 years old. And this is in that video. But what occurred is even then, I did not trust God because I did not know God was real. However, I was at my last resort, if you will, in great, not fear, despair, but just not seeing anything that I could do, and I needed assistance. So I just reached out and I said, all right, God, if you're real, I really need you now. And I said, you have to show me something impossible. I did not put it in a form of a prayer then. However, I did request for assistance. So therefore, it made it a prayer. Let me say, Father answered with immediately within the next 5 hours several what you would call impossible events. So there was no doubt. And then Father spoke to I. So after Father spoke to I, with I praying, there are times that, I'll speak out with Father and ask for, some assistance, but also with what and who I am without complicating it. The way that I pray is with open dialogue, vocally, and communion with Father. And it's more of a looking for the best solution. So with this open dialogue, and then it's what we energize. So it's not, and I don't mean for this to be humanoid egotistical, but it's because I'm a powerful part of creation that rather than being subservient and asking for assistance for prayer, we provide the solution for what ones would be praying for. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that answer, brother. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Now, my question number 7 is to do with collective prayer. How does communal prayer differ from individual prayer in terms of energy, outcomes, or impact? So
thank you. Perfect. Beautiful question. Well, it's simply, what Jesus said, where 2 or more gather, the miracles begin to occur. So what he is speaking, was speaking, and is speaking about at that time is where all come together with the same aligned belief. And all of these co-creators, individual souls, because the energetic consciousness and intent is all in alignment with a certain desired outcome, then it's more apt to occur. Hence the massed prayers and massed meditation prayer that does have the effects as well. But there's always the divine regulator of the divine plan, what is approved or not. And what I go back to say is that all prayers are answered, but there is just the determination by the prime principles of creation, which is Mother and Father God, and also the consideration of all of the other participating human souls, because each one has a sort of a divine contract that cannot be abridged, if you will. So it has to be considered at least to some degree. Yeah. So you can look at the ingenious design, how everything affects everything else. So it is with that, you need to, you could also see why a divine plan is so well orchestrated, but so meticulous in encompassing everything, where really and truly nothing is trivial. And in this great time, as you have more bringing their divinity in to these humanoid vessels, it's getting outwardly reflected very powerfully in reality. But there is that sense of order with it, which is so important. Without order, there would be chaos and destruction.
Thank you, brother. Now, this question is designed, this next question, for people who have certain challenges and doubts, which is what percentage, I'm not quite sure. What would you say to those who struggle with prayer, whether due to doubts about its effectiveness or difficulty in establishing, I hate to call it a habit, but so basically, if I repeat the question, what would you say to those who struggle with prayer, whether due to doubts about its effectiveness or difficulty in establishing the habit?
Well, what I say is give it the benefit of the doubt, try it yourself, and watch what occurs. But if you're going to doubt it, it's not going to be as effective. So, but at least get yourself up enough out of the fear to objectively, neutrally put your place in there and say, let's try this, let's try the prayer, but we're going to try the prayer from a genuine place of intent, because you need to do that and give it the fair chance, if you will, to see what it will produce for yourself. And again, common sense would tell anyone, try it and see what happens. And, your results will be the confirmation onto the degree of how much you believe. And I love the old adage, if you will, that if you don't believe in magic, you never will experience it or see it, because it takes enough of the belief, enough to try it, to take a step forward and try it, and then watch what occurs. But again, I love to add in here that the other old adage that God works in mysterious ways. This is so important to add this in, because one may have an expect a certain outcome for their prayer, but it may be answered in a totally different way. So when you say a prayer as at any time, it's important not to expect it to work in your way, because that is a demand, a control on the prayer, which is fear-based, which will limit it. So you just trust fully and set it free. If your prayer is answered, then it was divinely approved. If not, your prayer worked, but it just wasn't approved. But it can come in many different forms, the answer, many different forms in many different ways. And most often with this, one doesn't see it until they go into retrospect or reflect, later on, after a certain amount of time has transpired, and they can see when they genuinely prayed that the prayer was answered. But you have to take a lot of these conditioning factors out of it, because you're going into the unconditional, abstract realm of support.
Thank you, brother. My next question 9, is to do with the modern relevance with the rise of secularism and technology, i.e. AI, how can prayer remain relevant in today's fast-paced world? That's a question that's come to my mind today. With the rise of secularism and technology, how can prayer remain relevant in today's fast-paced world?
Well, generically and on the wide scale level, if you will, it's being divinely orchestrated and ascertained that the prayer is the priority, meaning that anything that may hinder it, like you mentioned about secularism and technology, these things would not exist if God did not exist. So, having said this, this also means that God and being God or goddess like also can control anything that may attempt to hinder. But we're in this great time of ascension, the great awakening, where old hindrances are just thrown out of the door. Obstacles are just thrown out of the door because divinity is the priority for humanity. This present savagery is going to be no more. So, what I would say, I don't particularly look at the hindrances, the problems, anything that would be problematic. We look at the opposite, the solutions, and what are the better things to do. Everyone, if you will, in the spiritual divine community has had, for the most part, all of their education through their experiences to know what is not right, what is not good, what they don't want. So everyone already has all of that. So now they are choosing the good things. So, and as a result of putting the focus on the prayer and the good things, organically, problems begin to go poof because the prayers are answered.
Thank you for that, brother. If I just pause here for a second and just bring your attention back to the film, the movie, which we all appreciate and dearly love. It's called I Believe, the movie. There was a very powerful theme behind it. And for me, it was clear it was an activation, a particular activation, performing miracles, which a lot of people like Jesus, I mean, a lot of people need to see, it seems, something miraculous in front of them. And a 9-year-old child sort of demonstrating the simplicity of just being in that awe and ecstasy of being alive, and very much connected to the divine, and activating sort of a very powerful form of healing. And this is the question which aroused me from watching this film. Do you feel it's important for people? Do you think miracles are important? Do you think people need to see miracles in order for people to believe?
Yes, and I'll even say with miracles, I have pointed miracles to many, and also myself has created miracles, but still at times ones don't believe or they tend to forget. But with this beautiful movie, if we look deeper into the divine inspiration and theme of the movie, and you know what the boy depicts, which is naivety, innocence, and even what you would call gullibility and meekness. But it's in this great humility where he always gave the credit to God, to Jesus, if you will. It's because of this, and of course, his other genuine attributes, which enforced his prayers to come true, to be manifest. So he's, in this movie, what it is showing is that it involves the innocence, the belief, and the trust, and also the intent to want to be like God, to do right. But it was also shown, how he was bullied, if you will, but he listened to what Jesus had said. And I love that part where then the two bullies kicked themselves in the shins. This is how the God works as well. But yeah, an excellent movie with so much depth. But again, it depends upon the consciousness perspective of how deep the individual is to see. But it doesn't matter for one's needing to see the depth, because it's energetically encoded. And for anyone that does watch it, it does begin to change them and put them in the right direction, if that answered it. But
Thank you. Absolutely, Brother Rick. Thank you for that. My last question, if I may, is to do with prayer and manifestation, obviously, what we just touched on here as well. How do you see the relationship between prayer and practices like manifestation or the law of attraction? Are they complementary or fundamentally different?
excellent question. What I say, with all prayer, before you go into a prayer, for example, there's many things that should be considered with any prayer, the fundamentals and the basics. I mean, if you're look at yourself first before, let's say, you pray for abundance, because there are these determining factors, especially with conscious co-creators. Now, the same rules they do apply for all levels of awakened ones, however, in all souls. However, where the rules apply to all, the ones at the lower levels have to take step one before they can take step two. And an example of that, step one, let's say, is being an atheist and going to step two and beginning to believe that there is something more with a prayer. But just repeat your question again, please, so I can get back on track.
Okay, it's so how do you see the relationship between prayer and practices like manifestation or the law of attraction, the law of attraction? Are they complementary or fundamentally different?
That is an excellent question, and I'm considering here how to formulate the answer with that. Could you repeat it one more time, and then I'll...
Of course. So, how do you see the relationship between prayer and practices like manifestation or the law of attraction? Are they complementary or fundamentally different?
What I wish to say, they can be complementary, or they also could be destructive to the individual, because there's so many variable factors that are at play within your question, what you just asked. That's what makes it should be, perhaps that question could be broken in 3 questions. Then we could answer each step individually to construct the full answer. Because again, as I mentioned, when we're dealing with prayer, we're affecting everything in reality. So there is for one to be prudent and meticulous in their approach, but also with their own intent and their own morality, to clear up hindrances and obstacles that could create the opposite as well. For example, if you're going to pray for abundance, well, then that means you're already in a state of fear, a state of lack. So then I say, why would you pray for abundance as a co-creator when you already have everything you need? And what this would mean, then you are kind of contradicting your prayer, if you will, that the universe or the answer of the prayer may create more complicated circumstance for you. So it's good to have a clarity as well. But again, it depends on the level of consciousness and soul development that one has gone through to the way that they pray and how they construct their intent and their prayer. So the answer, if you will, is not, I could make it a generic answer, but truly it's not. You would have to, I would customize it for every level, which would be extensive. So then again, the simplest form is just have the basics, put your intent in place, keep it clean. Don't pray for, if you already have enough things, don't pray for abundance. You already have abundance in what you have, for example. So it's important to discern, what are you actually praying for? Are you praying out of a state of fear to try to control your reality? Because if you're doing that, it's not going to be as beneficial. One of the best prayers and most powerful prayers that are answered more often is praying for someone else other than the self. You don't need to pray for yourself, but you can, each one can.
Is there an ultimate, I mean, for me, the ultimate activation in terms of the word enlightenment, because when you get fully aligned and enlightened, prayer becomes like breathing. It becomes, like you said, it's a very profound dialogue that you're having, and it's a very godly presence, because it's like what you said not that long ago. What would God or Jesus do in this situation? How would he react, to a given scenario or a narrative that has certain indifferences embedded into it. Robert, I was going to say, reference to the global people's monetary system, simplified divine law, in terms of, so you would encourage not just people with this model based in their hearts and minds, but it's something that, do you feel one needs to encourage people to pray, because it is nourishing, to say the least. Do you feel that people from time to time need a gentle reminder?
They can on their own accord, if you will.
Yeah.
I'd leave that up to the individual's choices, because also, again, it's always good to pray anytime, if you will. So, and it's also the mutual respect of the other's choices, and not to demand nor command on another and expect of another what to do. So with that, you have to be in the God sovereign free that respects the individual and all of their God sovereign rights as well. And that's when everyone advances forward. But going back to your prayer, what you had asked, what I wish to say is Femke and I, every night when we go to bed, we both say our prayers out loud together. And in our prayers, what we express is our love for mother and father and all of our divine brothers and sisters of the light, and of course the family and even the animals. And sometimes our prayer, when it's needed, will encompass all creation, if you will, with the flora and fauna and all of this. So every night, Femke and I do say our prayer, and every morning when I get up, my first prayer of the day is, and then Femke says this as well, and we say, "This is an amazing day," and so it is.
Right.
And so it is the seal the same as amen, but it's an actual prayer. Yes, but we're energizing the day, with the prayer. So where we trust the prayer, and we say this every morning, it doesn't matter what happens. We know that it was an amazing day. And if we didn't say the prayer, it could have been much worse.
Yeah.
Because you never know what you avoid.
Do you feel, thank you for that. Do you feel that certain practices, how you walk in terms of what you're portraying on reflection, what you're holding inside, if, for example, you're causing harm and you're imposing and yet you're praying, do you feel that when that individual who's imposing and causing harm and energetically causing, big issues on the environment at large, whether they're practicing in killing, for example, and let me tell you, definition of killing, it could be that slaughtering animals, for example, as a prime example. Do you feel that when they sit to pray, do you think it's possible it could fall onto deaf ears? Did you understand the question? Because what my understanding is, if you're praying and you're not walking your talk, and you're not noble, you're inflicting harm on every corner, every aspect of life, general, and you sit. Maybe you want to pray, or it could be like for forgiveness. It could be a situation where forgive me. That's different. But if they're, and those individuals who are praying and they're saying it's not really working, should they be looking a little bit deeper inside? Because what they're palating in terms of energy, because everything is energy. So what your intake is in terms of your source of fuel, for example. Because I remember we've had the pleasure of discussing the significance of what you consume. So if you're consuming and the density of the foods that you're ingesting, if you will, could that adversely affect the communication?
With that, the overall answer is no, again, because we need to look at the intent. So we need to look at the intent, because the prayer, if you will, is answered on the level of the genuineness of the intent, the sincerity. So what this means? There is the rule of thumb, but the beauty is there's always exceptions to the rule because of the omnipotency of Prime Creator, which means everything is possible. So one is not as foolish to rule out exceptions to the rule, because they do have a place and they are a factor in it. With for example, what Father has instructed me to teach, and what I am is a vegetarian, do not eat meat nor animals. And this is what I'm to teach and purvey outward to whoever listens to I. But at the same time, I do know advanced divine souls that eat some meat and some bird. So when you take that, when you evaluate that into the equation, you again have to know that it is a truth and a reality. But does it affect their prayer just because they do that? It does affect it in some way, but the prayer is still answered.
It's been answered, but people have.
Yeah, the highest, we have to look at the highest point of this, that each soul is a spark of the divine, meaning that everything can be overridden in a moment. And an example of that, if you look at my face here tonight, you know, whatever I look like, this physical vessel is 60 or 61. But in the blink of an eye, because of our access to Creator and what we are, this face can look like 20 years old when Femke and I have activated the power of love, and Femke's face as well. So for this to be true, and it is true, you know, these are the impossible things that could occur, that let's say if someone was eating meat, that it wouldn't matter, because at the soul level, they are the spark connected to God.
Thank you, brother, for that. My understanding is, if you're going against natural law, you're going against the natural flow, you're going against the grain, if you will. Hence the aging process as well, because people prematurely age even faster if you're ingesting foods.
Yes.
But what I'm saying, and I'm not pretending that I know the answers, but what I'm saying from my own personal experience, there are angelic beings and possibly non-angelic beings. So if your practices are not angelic, so when you're praying, could it go to non-angelic beings to be? So when you're sort of energizing that, it's not of the highest, it's of a lower vibration.
Well, no, you make your assignment of where and what you are praying to. So you assign the direction of your prayer, meaning that if someone is negated, what they're actually doing when they recognize Prime Creator and they put their prayer towards that, then they begin to be positive again and in alignment. But if they're negated as well, if any defies, it depends again on the individual level, but a compromise of divine law, depending on how serious it is on the individual, so that their lessons are learned. There is the wrath of God, which is self-inflicted, what I have spoken about before in the past, and I teach about it, and it's probably a time again to, you know, give some more insight in the exact mechanics of it again, so that one's realize, you know, not to let theirself become so negated and then become compromised, because we still are contending with that resistance in this reality. And yes, I come across times when ones can be manipulated that you'd never expected or anticipated. And when that happens, I say, Father, why? You know, but it's all part of the evolving and going forward.
Do you feel that more elevated beings of light, let's say if we go to the constellation of, you know, like the Palladians, for example, would they be in the habit of praying as well? Do you feel that higher beings, they all pray? Prayer is just the way it is. Because what I'm getting at, brother,
yeah. Uh,
Sorry.
what I wish to say, one of the ways everyone should look at their self is that you are actually Pleiadian, Syrian, and all of this. So it's us all
Okay.
together. And when you look at it
Right.
that way, when you pray here, yes, a Pleiadian aspect is also praying because you're
Connect.
part of that. See, the soul exists for all time, and it has so many incarnations and so many galactic spaces, other dimensions, so many that humanity don't even know about. But each one, depending upon the soul, had millions of incarnations. The soul never dies. The soul that is connected to Prime Creator, and we've had so many experiences. We're here in this physical vessel for I. This is only my third time that I was ever incarnated into the earth here. And again, I only come in important times while at the same time, there's other brothers and sisters that have had perhaps 1,000,000 incarnations in the earth dimension. So it varies from soul to soul. There's even some that has not been here before, like Femke. This is her first time, but and this is why we say we are also ascended masters, because we are not confined nor restricted to this dimensional realm known as Earth and the galaxy here, and the dimensional space that it embraces.
Brother Rick, thank you very, very much. I was going to say, do you want to end it on a little prayer, possibly? Do you fancy a little for our viewers? And
we need to establish the way that I suggest with prayer. Let's establish the intent. So, what are we going to pray about? What are we going to pray for?
I've got for the children out there. I mean, there's many aspects. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, it's we can pray.
Let's keep it simple, just for all the children, then worldwide.
Okay.
To pray for their fullest benefit.
Absolutely.
And with that, so now we're thinking about it. So we talked about it. We're not praying yet because we're establishing the intent. So we're getting in alignment. We're going to pray for the benefit of the children worldwide. Now, what we're going to do, this will be the prayer. Mm-hmm. Now, we are going to take it from the consciousness. We're going to feel it in the seat of the soul, the heart space. And it's there we are enhancing the intent of our prayer, what we have just spoke about, the benefit of the children worldwide. Then we feel it here in our heart. Once the intent is placed in there and embraced with love, then we are ready to set the prayer free out into the universe to be heard. And what occurs, the universe will respond if it's in alignment, and surely it is, with the divine plan and all of creation.
Beautiful. That's great. And it could also work for that inner child activation in all the adult beings as well. So it has a beautiful ripple to it as well.
See, importantly, where we're speaking about it, it's already occurring because we have spoken it out loud. Our intent is already here. So it's already having an effect on reality because of this. But we can take it further and just say the short prayer and seal it with, I love to say, and now it is. or "and so it is," rather than saying "amen" on the end of it. And, you know, one of the reasons is to play with words. But if you look at "amen," that's kind of leaving out the feminine aspect. So we love to keep it all inclusive and seal it with, you know, "and now it is," and so it is. So we wish to say a little prayer. Do you wish to say it sentence by sentence, and I'll repeat after you? And
Oh no, brother, you go ahead and say from your heart.
all right. So let's do this then. Mother and Father, we pray for the beneficial enhancement of all of the children worldwide in this now, and lift them up into your grace and the safety of heaven. And so it is.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. It's always an honor.
Yeah, so it is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so it is. Yeah. No, that's great, brother. I thank you, brother.
You know,
yeah.
And you're so welcome. You know, with I, again, and I say this from divine ego, which is my identity, that my trust is such that really there is not anything for I to pray for, because I know it's all going to happen. So it's as a result of my trust, it is always the prayer in action in everything that I do. And to assist my prayer in action, it's the things that I do every day and tweak up. And I'm very meticulous, and I know my co-creator power. And of course, I always wish to be doing the most beneficial things I can to advance all forward. So I am always living my prayer, if you will.
Yeah. Without sounding too egoistic, I can relate to that, because it's hard not to, because when you share space with an individual, and I've always said this out loud, that for me, you've been a massive game changer in so many ways. So I've risen to the occasion. And for me, it's not what you call it. It's not the label's not that important. It's the message. It's what's your signature, and it's love at the end of the day, and it's unconditional, because the operating system is abundance, not scarcity. I don't feel I have a need for it. What I say to people, the cup is full. So a lot of people's cup is not sometimes full, and they're giving away what they can't really afford to give away. The cup is pouring. So we're just giving to whichever organism is within a certain area radius is being affected, and it's exciting to see, because people are being excited. They get excited to be in your presence. I certainly am when I share space, who is walking their talk, because you're leaving an impression, and that impression is very powerful. It's helping me. It's helping my family. It's affecting, like if I'm in Austria, it's affecting the people in Austria, because it's going everywhere. So it's good to see, brother, and I'm very happy.
Yeah, may I add, because this just divinely come in, Femke and I periodically, or at any time, there are ones sometimes that will ask us to pray for them. So yes, when I get a message or what have you, then Femke and I just does a quick prayer to support the individual's prayer that they have asked for. So we do pray, as well in that respect. to make it clear, and that is also important to support others in prayer, and we do that is what I wish to share. Yeah.
And that's doing people when they feel so energized in your blessings, because you're changing the structure, and it gives them like a breathing space where they feel relaxed. Support, yes, they feel supported. This is important. And it's not that they become lazy. It's like they see a particular model that they're triggered in the most positive way. Because if you see the so-called what qualifies these days for mentorship, it's you, and it's not I'm judging good or bad, but you can see the ones that are really walking and the ones that are just talking. They talk a good story, which is fine. I'm not saying that's okay. It's, or should we say it's not? Certain people say it's not okay, but for myself,
the main thing is to keep the focus always on the highest and always on the positivity,
absolutely, bro.
and the unity, togetherness, the strength in numbers. That is a basic thing. So we keep the focus on that, and there's times it's all part of the process, the troughs and the crests of the waves, but we're forever going up. And ideally what all of us would love, no more of these troughs, just all the straight going up, but we're not quite there yet. So each one plays the roles as well to energetically have things to play out. And it's important, again, to remain objective, to not be nearsighted and get caught up into, any of the tunnels. Keep your sights far out into the future and be in the now space, and, be neutral on things. Don't get lured into anything negative. We're about love, peace, harmony, positivity. And that is where the power is, and the alignment and the stability. And it's what we're here to do. But again, we're still in the past in this lower density reality. And there's times that brothers and sisters can succumb to the influence of the density. But we all persevere. That's why I say in the moment, it may be a disdain or a despair, but really it's only in this second. And as we go forward, there is no more distortion. It's all cleared. So that's why it's important to have the farsightedness to know that we persevere and we get through it all. Without having that farsightedness, you can get trapped into the nearsightedness and just keep going in loops, like a dog chasing your tail, controlled by a negative environment. So this again is the hope. If you don't have the hope, again, you don't have any direction to go forward. And you have to have the trust. And with this hope comes at times what humans would call blind trust, blind faith. But without having even a blind faith, again, you don't go anywhere. So take the jump into the blind faith. And once you do that, then you begin to see. So you've got to take the jump, with the blind faith and do it. Just do it. You got to do it, and just do it, and keep your sights forward on the end goal of heaven on earth. That's what we're doing.
On that note, Brother Rick, thank you, and my love to you, Fenka, Romania, and to our beautiful viewers out there. Thank you for listening and being part of this great change. Thank you, brother, and look forward to catching up with you in the foreseeable future. Appreciate your presence.
And you're so welcome, brother. And what I do is I send out this last prayer to any that may watch this, that all of your days be good and you evolve and develop forward at a rapid speed and into your own divinity and stand shoulder to shoulder with your sisters and brothers. So we get this planetary ascension mission done much quicker. And so it is. And now it is. Right on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Much
Bioactivator
love.
would like to thank you for your kind support and donations. Bioactivator would like to thank you for your kind support and donations. Through Barrett Tunian's guardianship of this platform, his activation of truth harmonizes, neutralizes, and unblocks the meridians that connect, balance, and purify all that comes in contact. Do no harm is the key that fully opens the heart's voice to be in the union of the I Am presence and will represent every living organism on the planet whose voice would otherwise not be heard. Remember, the truth will set you free. Do no harm, cause no loss, and do not impose upon the freedom of others. Love, light, and